Hey guys, happy Monday. It is noon here in Charleston, South Carolina. Well, it's almost noon. It's 11:59, but close enough. So today is our Monday Ask Anything, and we have a few things to chat about already today. I'm going to share this video in our mentoring group. I mention this every time, and I'm sorry if it's super annoying, but if you're not in the Candice mentoring group and you are in the wedding industry or you're a photographer, or even if you're just like a working mom and you want some guidance on, sorry, I'm sharing this to my group, and you want some guidance on running your business or photography questions that you want answered, or you're in the wedding industry and you just want some guidance there, then you are more than welcome to pop in the group. And I will leave a link after this video is over, so you can just click the link and go right on into the group. And I'm gonna share this video now inside of the group. Let's see, Candice Adele Mentoring, there we go. Okay, awesome, so it's shared. So, all right, so the way that this will work, guys, is any questions that you have as I'm going through this live, and you are more than welcome to ask. Let me pull up the comments. I'm doing this from my laptop today, or I'm sorry, from my iMac. Oh, here we go. Why don't I not see the comments? Oh Lord, this is going to be interesting. So hopefully I'll be able to see them. There we go. Okay, cool. So I am going to start out by just saying, hey, happy Monday. Hopefully you guys are doing well wherever you are. Hey, Trisha. Hey, Kathy. Happy Monday. Yeah, just feel free to pop in and say hello. And like I said, any questions that you have, just type them into the comment section. I can see all of them. So even if you didn't have a chance to submit a question ahead of time, you can ask questions today. And if you guys hear if you hear like a weird noise in the background, that's my pug like snoring it up in his little bed. So, oh my gosh. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the questions. So one of the first questions that I got was regarding setting your business up legally. So making sure that you have everything set up so you are actually legal to work in the state in which you are working. So this should be one of the first things that you do when you decide that you are going to have a photography business or any business in general. And these are very specific by state. So let's say, for example, you're in the photography business and you are not really sure yet if you need to be setting yourself up with a tax ID number, with insurance, with all of those things. I'm going to make this very, very simple for you. If you are accepting money for your services, I don't care if it is $1 or $1,000, you have to get yourself set up legally to conduct business in the state and the town or county in which you are living, residing, or where your business resides. So that's number one. So you cannot be taking money from clients without having something set up through your state. So to make this very easy, you're going to obviously want to check with, maybe an accountant in your area, or even call your local municipalities to make sure that you're getting set up properly. But the first thing that you can do to make sure that you're set up legally is to get a tax ID number. So that can be done right on the IRS website. It is super easy. It's just irs.gov. And you can go on and get your tax ID number. You do not have to go through an attorney for this. If you are not necessarily comfortable with it, you can certainly contact an attorney to do it, or contact your tax professional. I offer mentoring for anybody entering into the photography industry, or also into the wedding industry. And this is something that I do help walk people through, is getting this set up properly. Prior to being in the wedding photography business, I worked with small businesses and helped them with this type of thing. So you'd be really surprised to find out how easy it really is. So when you are getting yourself set up with your tax ID number, you have to decide whether you're going to be one of 3 different types of entities. Are you going to be a sole proprietorship? Are you going to be an LLC? Are you going to be an S Corp? Most of the time, you're going to either be a sole proprietorship or an LLC. I recommend getting set up as an LLC. I won't go into all of the specifics about that right now, That's just my personal recommendation because it does take the liability off of you personally when you are engaging in business with others. So that is my recommendation. It's super easy to get your tax ID through the IRS website. It takes you maybe 10 minutes. Super simple. So that's the number one thing. You have to make sure you have a tax ID number. Number two, you need to get a license through your local area. So it's going to vary by state what exactly you have to have. So my recommendation would be to contact your local clerk's office through the court system in your county or your township and just ask what you have to do to get it done. Typically, you can take care of all of it online. When I set up my business, I did it all online. It was not the easiest thing to go through. There were definitely questions to ask along the way, but you can certainly do it on your own. So just make a call to your clerk's office, tell them what you're trying to do. Hey, I'm setting up a business. Is there someone I can meet with, or can you send me to a website that I can get this done? The third thing you absolutely have to have if you are conducting business is general liability insurance. If you are out photographing and someone trips over your camera and breaks their arm, you don't want to get sued. And if you do, you have to have insurance. So I recommend going through Hill and Usher. That's spelled Hill ampersand Usher, as in like the singer Usher. They specialize with photographers. So through them, you can get your general liability insurance, which is going to protect you if someone decides to sue you. If you are a wedding photographer and you're working at upscale venues, you're going to have insurance in order to be able to even shoot there. So it is a must. You have to be insured if you're working with clients. They also will help you get your equipment insured. Guys, you have to have your equipment insured. I had a second photographer working for me a couple of years ago, and one of his cameras got stolen at a wedding. So luckily there were no images on that camera. It was just a backup camera, but you have to have insurance on your equipment. It's expensive stuff that you have, and it's not that much money to have it insured. So you want to make sure that you have that at the very least. If you are selling products, you have to pay sales tax in your local area. So that's another thing that you can get set up when you are setting up your business through your local municipality. Different states have different rules. Some states, you don't have to pay sales tax on digital products. Some states you do. Some people decide that they just pay sales tax on everything that they offer. So it really depends on where you are. That would be a really good question for your accountant in your state. So those are the big things that you really have to have set up if you want to run your business legally. So I know that was a very loaded answer for that question. There's a lot more that goes into it, but those are definitely the places where you need to start if you want to run a legal business in your area. So that answers that question. The next question that we had was regarding a photo shoot for, I think it was like a fashion photo shoot for young girls. And the question was asked how to get really good photos of the girls twirling. So kind of what the camera settings would be for that. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys here in just a second. So let me make sure I'm pulling up the right thing. Okay. And if I'm talking too fast, tell me to slow it down. Say slow it down, Candice. I get excited about this stuff and then I start talking really fast. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Hold on one second. Just kidding. I'm going to share here in a second. Holy moly's. All right, I'm going to try to share my screen, y'all. I've got some other stuff up in the background, but you'll just have to not pay attention to that. Okay, this is not what I was going to show you. I'm going through a wedding that I just had this weekend, so I'm pulling up some images, but I want to show you. Okay, so to answer the question about photographing, to be able to stop action for this photo shoot. Trisha, was it you that asked that question? I feel like it might have been. I don't know, maybe not. And oh, hello, Tisha, is that how I pronounce your name? Hendersonville, North Carolina. How are ya? Okay, so I am hey Haley. So I am going to walk you through the exposure triangle just really quickly to kind of give you a good understanding of how different pieces of exposure or different parts of your camera settings can affect your exposure. Because I think that question about being able to stop the action as these girls are twirling was a really, really good question. And then I'll show you an example. Okay, oh yes, okay, Trisha, great, it was worse. And I'll show you an example of one of mine. Oh, Haley, you're in Amarillo, Texas. Please tell me it's warm. Please tell me it's warm there right now. So there are 3 different ways that light enters into your camera to affect the exposure of the images that you're capturing. So number 1 is going to be at the bottom of this triangle here. It's your ISO. So that's actually the sensitivity to light of your camera's sensor. The second thing is going to be aperture. So you may or may not know when you're setting your aperture settings, the wider open your aperture is, the more light you're going to let in, and actually the blurrier the background's going to be. That's like a very popular style of shooting. I personally shoot very wide open apertures because I love that creamy background and how the subjects pop off of the creamy background. If you have more of a closed off aperture, you're going to have less exposure into the camera. So less light is going to come into your camera. And then your shutter speed, if you have a super fast shutter speed, less light is going to be entering into your camera. If you slow down that shutter speed, more light is going to come into your camera. So those are the 3 things that you can adjust when you are thinking about proper exposure with your camera. But the question that Trisha was asking was, what are the best settings for photographing these girls as they are twirling and their dresses are spinning? My recommendation for that when it comes to your actual shutter speed is to shoot a faster shutter speed. So if you are shooting a slow shutter speed, so you're letting light in by slowing it down, that means that with that slower shutter speed, you could possibly get blurry images. While that may look cool on the dresses, that's not going to look good with your subject's hands, their faces, the rest of their bodies. Oh, hey, Tracy from Ashburn. Hey, I just moved from Warrenton down to Charleston, so we were practically neighbors. So anyway, back to this. So when you slow down the shutter speed too much, you're going to end up with what's called ghosting or blur when your subjects are moving. So I'll give you an example. Let me go back to this really quick. I'm going to take screen share off. Hello, I'm back. I'm going to pull up my website, or actually I'm going to pull up a gallery so you can see some images that I did at a wedding, which was very similar, where the bride was twirling in her dress, which I loved the movement of her dress, and she just so happened to be a former dancer, so it was like perfect. And I'll show you some images from this wedding, and I will tell you, as far as shutter speed's concerned, obviously the other settings on your camera are going to make a difference, but I would recommend not going below 1/500th if you're going to be stopping action. If it's like super, super fast action, then I wouldn't go lower than 1/1000th with your shutter. But let me pull this up. And with this particular image, I did not go below 1/500th when she was twirling her dress. And I know I'm like searching. You know what? I'll just share the screen with you guys so you can see, like, as I'm scrolling through, if you want to see some of these other images. Let's see here. Oh, I'm already screen sharing. Okay. Let's see. I'm pulling it up. I'm going through my past gallery so I can pull up this image. I had pulled it up earlier, and I don't know what I must have clicked out of it. Anyway, it's coming. So, Trisha, I hope that that answers your question. So I would make sure that, you know, your other settings are appropriate for, you know, a good exposure, but make sure that those shutter settings do not go below 1/500th. And just take test shots and see, you know, what is happening as you're taking those images. If you notice that there's blur, then your shutter needs to be faster. So you need to go up. So like, here's an example. I'll show you this one. Can you guys see this okay? So she was twirling her dress in this whole like series of images. Hey Raquel, how are you? Oh my gosh. So here you can see she's twirling her dress. We can definitely see movement, but her dress is not blurry. And that is because I did not go below 1/500th of a second when I was adjusting the shutter speed. So I always shoot in manual mode. So I, you know, manually selected my aperture, my shutter speed. I knew it couldn't be below 1/500th. So the one thing that I was making the most adjustments on was my ISO, because I knew I wanted my aperture to be at a certain setting. I wanted my shutter to be at a certain setting. So then I started adjusting my ISO. There you go, Trisha. Yeah. So just make sure, yeah, just take a peek at that shutter. Make sure you don't go below 1/500th, and you should be totally fine. So here you guys can see, whoop, there, we were standing still for that one, but we have all this movement and no blur at all. Awesome. So Haley said, I like to think of it as an eye. When our eyes are open, we have light coming in. Then when we squint, it's focusing. Then the quicker we blink. That's a really good analogy, Haley. Like, that's perfect. Yes, you should think of it exactly as an eye. Okay, so where did I put my focal point on the bride while she was twirling? So this was shot pretty wide open. I want to say that it was probably at, I would say the aperture was probably like 2.5, 2.8. So my focal point was probably, just this is the way that I shoot, was either on her face or right around here. And I was backed up far enough where I didn't have to be so specific as to where I was focusing. Obviously, if my focal point went over here, or down here, then she wouldn't have been in focus at all. But most likely it was either on her face or right here on her chest is where I was focusing. And when I am focusing on a subject, I am toggling my focal points. So what that means is that I will change my focal points based on the orientation of my camera. So if I'm like holding it, you know, landscape wise, which is what this orientation is, I'll have my focal point, you know, at one place, but then if I turn it vertically, then I'll have to move my focal points. So I don't keep my focal point in one place the whole time and recompose. I change my focal points. So I hope that that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, if you're at like 2.5, 2.8, then you should be, or above, then you should be fine with focusing on her face or, you know, right around their chest area when you're doing that, when you're photographing the little kiddos. So just make sure you're taking like lots of test images and you're checking to make sure that everything is in focus on the back of your camera. But with those settings, you should be totally fine. So Trisha, as you're photographing these girls, so for instance, if you have your, let's say you have your aperture at 2.8, you've got your shutter speed set to, you know, 1/500th or let's say 1/1000th, then the next logical thing that you're going to have to adjust to get the right exposure is going to be your ISO. So you can keep those other two settings the same and then just change your ISO settings accordingly, depending on where you're photographing. All right. So that was a good one. That was a really good question, Trisha. Okay. So the last question that I had was regarding the punctuality of clients to engagement sessions, and then also questions around, what was the other thing? I'm doing this off the top of my head. Oh gosh, punctuality of clients. Oh, and then office hours when I'm taking phone calls. So I think that's a really good question. Oh, and Haley, I see you've got a question too, so I'll get to that in just a second. So when it comes to punctuality of my clients for engagement sessions, I actually answered this question in my mentoring group, but if you're not in there, then I'm going to answer it for you too. So I will say especially for engagement sessions, I do send out an engagement session guide to all of my clients that are going to be doing an engagement session with me. In that engagement session guide, I do mention reasons why they should be on time. I do realize that things happen from time to time. Hair and makeup can run late. People can run into traffic. So many different things, so many different variables. But I do let them know that our engagement session is set up from, a particular time. Let's say from 4 to 6 is your time for your engagement session in the evening. And typically when I'm scheduling engagement sessions, it's based on sunset time. So whatever time sunset is, we're going to schedule that session for, 2 hours prior to sunset to get the best lighting. This is just an example. But if their session is scheduled from 4 to 6 and they're half an hour late, then now their session is going to be from 4:30 to 6. Or if they're an hour late, it's going to be from 5 to 6. It just depends on what time they arrive. If I am there ready for their session to start when it's time to start, then the clock starts ticking. Not necessarily because I'm such a, stickler about being on time, but I can't control the sun. So, the sun's going to set when the sun's going to set. So, and I've never had a problem with clients, understanding that. The time is what it is. So, if they are 15 minutes late, I'm fine with that. I'll just kind of sit and get caught up on an audiobook or, do whatever else I need to do to prepare for the session. So I do not charge fees for clients that are late to their own sessions because it's just impeding on their own time. So hopefully that answers that question. When it comes to business hours and clients wanting to schedule time outside of business hours, I'm pretty flexible when it comes to scheduling calls with clients. I'll typically do them, after typical business hours, but every business owner runs their office differently. So if your business hours are from 8 to 5 and a client knows that, then they'll make the time to talk to you between 8 and 5. It's just like any other business. If your doctor's office is only open until 5 o'clock and you got to see the doctor, you're going to make an appointment within their office hours. So if that is how you run your business, then you set those very strict parameters and you just let your clients know, hey, I can only take calls between this time frame and that time frame. As far as charging a fee to talk outside of those office hours, that's completely up to you. But I don't do that. I'm a little bit more flexible, but it's up to the business owner. So just setting the expectation up front with your clients is all you have to do, and they'll be understanding. And if they're not understanding and they can't do that, then maybe they're not the right client for you. So, so you had someone who was late. Yeah. Different things happen. People run late for various reasons. And it's unfortunate sometimes you can't get all the images that you were hoping for that particular session, but stuff happens and you gotta be flexible. So, as far as lenses that I use, Haley asked what lenses I use. I typically have 4 different lenses with me, at any given time for, sessions. Weddings, I might have like 5. So I'm always going to have my 50 millimeter. I do shoot Canon. I have my 50 millimeter that barely ever leaves my camera. It's not going to leave my camera until dancing at the reception. I have 50 millimeter 1.2, but you don't have to have that expensive of a lens. You could do the 1.4 or even the 1.8 if you're just starting out. I have a 35 millimeter that I use for wide shots. I have a macro lens that I use for detail shots at the beginning of the wedding day. 70 to 200 that I use for portraits, and then also for the ceremony, so I can get those nice tight close-up shots without having to step in front of all the guests. But I do love using it for portraits too because it's just really gorgeous. And I also have a 24-70 that I use during the reception time. I don't have the Canon brand for my 24-70. I actually have the Tamron, which I love way better than the Canon. It's much sharper, the colors are better. I just love, love, love it. It's so good, and it's less expensive. So those are my go-to lenses. I do have an 85 that I carry around in my bag, but I never use it. I don't even know why I carry it. So those are my go-to lenses for sessions and for wedding day. 24-70 is not going to come out of my bag for a session. That's strictly for reception photos. So yeah, I love my 50mm too. It's like my favorite lens. Never, ever, ever comes off my camera. I shoot with 2 cameras, so it really does stay on my camera like all day long. It's the best. So awesome. All right, let me check and see if there are any more questions. I don't think there are. No, there are not. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, Kathy, yes. Yeah, 70 to 200 is like incredible. And you bought the 51.2. You're still trying to figure it out. It's awesome. You probably won't shoot at 1.2, probably ever. I think really like the widest my aperture goes is like maybe like 1.8, sometimes 1.6, but that's like very rare. But yeah, it's an awesome lens I've had forever. Gorgeous, gorgeous images. My fave. My fave, my fave. All right, y'all. Let me see if we had any more questions. I don't think so. Gosh, you guys are awesome. These are really, really awesome questions. So we do these Facebook Lives every Monday at noon and Eastern Standard Time. So you can submit your questions ahead of time. You can shoot me a private message. You stay at 2.8, Kathy. Well, you should venture out a little bit. You should definitely venture out a little bit to open up that aperture. It's fun. It makes for really beautiful photos. Okay, also, you guys still have questions. Okay, you don't do weddings, but several people love your stuff and want to do theirs. How would you respond? So, Haley, do you want to do weddings at all? So that would be my first question. If you don't want to do weddings, then I would find somebody that you like know and trust in your area and refer the weddings to them. That would be my recommendation. Just find somebody that you like love, their style, and you would feel comfortable referring them, and I would just refer them out. Because if you are not a wedding lover, then don't do it. I know it can be really tempting to photograph something that is not like your jam because people want to give you money, but particularly with weddings, don't take people's money if it's not what you love. So yeah, just refer it out to somebody. And honestly, like there are photographers out there that will pay you a referral fee if they book the business. So I mean, that would certainly be something to talk about. And if you are interested in that, I can give you names. There are people that will pay you. So that's a great way to handle it. So anyway, so we do these lives every Monday at 12 for Ask Anything. So any questions that you have, business related, photography, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can sit here and ask me about my sweatshirt. Doesn't matter. You can ask whatever you want. And then on Thursdays at 4 o'clock, we will be talking about something in particular. So actually this Thursday, we don't have a topic scheduled, but I was thinking that maybe we could do some critiques. So if you want to submit images for critique, then you are more than welcome to submit those to me through private message, or you can even email me with those images and we will go through them and we can give you some critiques on anything it might be. It could be trying to figure out white balance, or maybe like an image didn't come out the way that you thought that it should. You have questions about lighting, anything like that. So go ahead and shoot those images over to me via message or email, and we will go through them on Thursday at 4. And so Haley, you do mostly boudoir. Okay, well, I mean, honestly, that would be a really great referral relationship if you could find a wedding photographer that doesn't do boudoir, that they could refer back and forth with you. that would be incredible because they probably have brides that want to do boudoir sessions. And if they're not shooting it, they can refer to you. That would be an awesome referral relationship. So I would definitely look into that. Again, we can chat offline if you want some recommendations of people to refer to if you don't already have some. So, because Haley, you're in, where are you located? Did you say you were, okay. Oh, you're in Texas. We can still find you somebody for sure. All right, guys. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to wait around for a quick second because sometimes they pop in right as I'm about to end the broadcast. But if you have any questions at all, let me know. Pop into that mentoring group if you're not already in there. I will post a link. And hopefully I will see all of your faces on Thursday. If not, you can catch us again next Monday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I hope you guys have an awesome week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.